It's been about a week now since we got back from the Presscheck Consulting Shoot House Operations and Safety class. This is my second time taking the class. First time was back in January, also at the facility in Dilley. There's been a lot of discussion about the class since then. My buddy Clay already did an after-action review with some of his thoughts, a lot of gear review and stuff going on. There's been a lot of questions about the class, so I figured I'd do a quick video here just on what's going on with the class, like who should go to the class, and what you should do to prepare for the class, because there's a lot of mystery kind of surrounding it. If you haven't been to it before, not really sure what to expect going in. So we'll do a quick video about that stuff. First thing is preparation. So me personally, I've already been to a Presscheck Night Fighter class a couple years ago. Also did a 2-day CQB class with Hades Consulting, which has very similar TTPs taught in that class as far as CQB. Also, I've been shooting USPSA and 3-gun for going on 20 years now. Also, I'm a full-time firearms tactics instructor for a major police department. So full-time job has been shooting and doing patrol tactics related stuff for many years now. So that was my kind of preparation going into this class. For anybody that's looking to take the shoot house class, the first thing that you need is subconscious competence with the shooting. There's going to be a lot to think about during the class. Intellectually, it's very challenging with all the new stuff that's being thrown at you. So you can't be thinking about the shooting. All the shooting and the weapons manipulation stuff has to be done at a subconscious level, because you're not going to have the bandwidth to be thinking about how to do those things while also conducting the SOPs for the tactics in the class and making decisions and target discrimination and all that. So subconscious competence on the shooting has to be the number one thing that you have going in. Also related to shooting, need to practice doing high-risk shots on the move. Typically when people practice moving while shooting, it's moving directly forward on a large target and just getting some hits. While there will be cases where you're moving towards the target and shooting at it, there's a lot of other cases where you might be moving, sideways to a point of domination, where you're moving one direction and having to shoot a hostage rescue shot across the room in a completely different direction. So your shooting on the move has got to be on point, because most of your shooting will be on the move. Shooting from a static position was actually the exception during the class, rather than the rule. Much more commonly done was shooting while moving. So that'd be a good thing to practice going into the class with regards to shooting. Also, we need to be able to work everything attached to the gun with that same subconscious competence that we're doing with the shooting. So the white light you have, IR laser, all that stuff on the gun, you've got to be able to switch between them on demand without having to think about it. The good news is it doesn't really take a lot of bullets. You just got to sit there and do the work and practice being able to manipulate those things. From taking hands off the gun, you might have to take both hands off the gun. The rifle's just hanging from your neck or from a sling, maybe to prep a bang, breach a door, whatever. And then within a second or two, your hands have to be back on the gun in the correct spot to activate either the white light or the IR laser, whatever you need at that time, and actually hit the correct one on demand every time. So being able to switch between white light and IR instantly and on demand without having to think about it is going to be a prerequisite for this class. As far as requisite equipment, first thing you need is going to be a rifle that is reliable with sims. There's often a lot of problems with simunitions. Through a lot of trial and error, my unit kind of cracked the code on it. The number one issue is going to be too heavy of a spring rate to run the sims. So a lot of rifles are a little overgassed, so to compensate for being overgassed, we throw in heavier springs, Springco blues or A5 greens or whatever. And that's just too much for the sims, which don't have much power to them to be able to operate. And so we see a lot of malfunctions with those. So the easy button on having a rifle that works well with sims is going to be just taking out whatever action spring you have in there, dropping in a Springco yellow. Whether it's a carbine spring or even if it's an A5, as long as you still use the A5 buffer, you can drop in that yellow Springco carbine spring, and it still works fine. So Springco yellow action spring is kind of the cheat code for having a rifle that runs well on sims. Just in case you do get something stuck in the barrel, make sure you got a cleaning rod to be able to punch it. Every class, we have somebody that has an issue with sims, and a Springco yellow spring, and then a rod to get any stuck rounds out. Keeps the rifle working. Next, for the class, you're going to need helmet-mounted night vision. So if you have a night vision setup, as long as it's helmet mounted, you're good. I use dual tubes. If you got a single tube, that still works. Guys still use single tube. As long as it's mounted to your helmet, you can flip it up out of the way when you're doing white light, and kind of on demand move it out of the way for white light and back down for night vision. Then you'll be good to go there. Just don't try to mess with like skull mounts and all that sort of weird stuff. As long as it's helmet mounted, you can switch between nods up and nods down. You'll be good to go. Also, rifle's going to need to be set up to instantly switch between daylight, white light, and IR, and go back and forth between all of those things. Typically, the progression in the class is going to be starting with daylight, then going to white light, then going to IR. So yeah, you have to be able to switch between them, but sometimes you might be doing a nods run, but you need white light for positive ID or something. And so having a rifle available to instantly go from IR to white light and then back to IR maybe to engage that target or to engage a different target, your rifle's got to be set up to do that. So being able to go between daylight, white light, and IR with the enablers on your rifle on demand. For gear setup, as long as you got like a front and a rear flashbang pouch, and all the classes I've gone to, there've been enough extra, so you'll want a way to carry it in the front, a way to carry it in the rear, and you'll be good to go. If you're going to use a breaching shotgun, which is optional for the class, but if you do bring one, you just have to have it set up in a way that you can instantly sling your rifle, grab the breaching shotgun, conduct the breach, and then instantly get that rifle out of the way to have the rifle put back up. So as long as you got a way to instantly transition between breaching shotgun and rifle, and then back and forth, you'll be good. So that's for necessary equipment. If you got those things, you'll be good to go. I took a sim pistol both times. Never once did I ever draw that thing because, again, I had my rifle set up with a Springco yellow. Never had a rifle malfunction, but it was there if I needed it. Never did. As far as how the class is structured, so the class is very long days. Day one, it culminates in a single team multi-room. So, but you start out really with the basics. So you start out 4-man team, how to enter properly a center fed room, a corner fed room, and then it'll start stacking tasks on top of that. So post-assault procedures, and then eventually culminating into multi-rooms, how to conduct multi-rooms with one team of 4-person. And you start off doing that under daylight, and then you'll transition to doing it under white light, and then you'll end the night eventually doing it under nods. So single team, multi-room. That'll be all of day one. Day two, after reviewing that multi-room single team, you'll do multi-team, single breach. So you'll have multiple teams working sections of the house with a single breach. So the SOPs for hallways and all that is stacked on top of the rooms that was worked on the first day. And again, it goes from daylight to white light to nods, culminating in multi-team single breach of large sections of the house. Day three, you'll end up with multi-team, multi-breach points. So you'll have different teams entering different sections of the house. You have to worry about link up and all that stuff. And the whole house will eventually be opened for multi-team, multi-breach with, again, that same progression starting with daylight, then moving to white light, and then moving to night vision. The way that days themselves are structured, so starting out, everything is extremely strict. Okay, so when you first start with one person in one room, multiple people, one room, but it's 1-to-1 when it comes to student-instructor ratio. So each student is going to have one other student evaluating them from the catwalk. So nothing will escape, the vision of the person that is watching you. So they start off extremely detailed. Like every step you take, every shot that you make is going to be evaluated. And the standards are extremely strict. So whether it is on specifically where your point of domination is, the sequence in which you engage targets, and exactly where on the target your bullet is going to land, all of that is going to be extremely strict starting out. And that's done so that it kind of gives you a very solid foundation. So if we start off with, all your rounds have to be within a 3-inch circle on every target that you shoot, then kind of as the class progresses and the scenarios get bigger and bigger, like even if your accuracy degrades a tad, okay, now we're going from a 3-inch circle to maybe like a 5-inch circle, but we're still looking at very, very good shot placement, which is expected throughout the class. But so even if it degrades just a little bit, then if we're starting from something that is very strict, then it's not going to degrade that bad. So it's going to start off extremely strict, even if, kind of throughout the class, a little bit gets relaxed when it comes to precision, then it still ends up being a very high standard. One of the methods taught at this class, or how things are taught, which I've experienced in like the Hades class and everything, is that new material is often introduced as a surprise to the students. Okay, so if something that's going to be talked about is your team gets compromised. Okay, well, that's not going to start with a training block on here's what happens if your team gets compromised. What's going to happen is, surprise, during a run, your team's going to get compromised and you're going to be evaluated on how you kind of react to this new situation. That seems to be really common because I experienced the same thing in Hades class and a few other classes where new things are introduced as a surprise to kind of see how people are going to react to it. As a student, it causes some students to grumble because it's like, well, I would have preferred to have been taught how to deal with that situation first before I was presented with that situation. But that is a method that I have seen fairly often. Even almost 20 years ago when I was a cadet in police academy, to be honest, the tactical scenarios that I crushed and did super awesome, I don't remember any of them. The ones that I do remember is where something bad happened, something unexpected, and I screwed it up. Those are the ones that I remembered, so that could be something behind why it's done this way. But almost every scenario, something additional and surprising is added on to the one before it. So it is still kind of a stair-step approach. Little things are added at each time, but often you're going to be surprised by what it is. And then after the evolution, okay, here's the best way to do it. And it may not have been the one that you had chosen and made up on the spot. Student performance. The first time that I took this class, at the end of the very first day, I was ready to sell all of my nods and all of my guns and take up something that wasn't shooting because I felt like a terrible human being. And it's because things that I thought were easy turns out can be very hard. So you're being evaluated on such a strict level that it's impossible to do everything perfect. And if you go into this thinking, I'm going to crush this, everything's going to be perfect, you're going to get kicked in the balls really, really hard. So things that I thought were easy, like going to a point of domination, entering a room and going opposite of the person in front of me, things that I thought were super easy, turns out in certain circumstances can actually be very difficult and take kind of like 100% of your brain power to get it right. And the first time that I took this class, like everything that I did took 100% of my brain, which is why the shooting part has to be completely subconscious, because you don't have the bandwidth to think about shooting and think about all this other stuff that's being piled up on top of you. So for me, the shooting's pretty second nature, and even then, I needed every brain cell that I had left devoted to the task that I was doing the first time that I took this class. So the first day was real hard. But what I noticed is that the things that were super hard the first day, by the middle of day 2, I was able to kind of do those things. I mean, not quite subconsciously, but almost. I didn't have to think about it near as much. So say what you will about the structure of the class. I can tell you that it's effective, because I went from feeling like a complete loser, completely incapable of doing this thing, to all of a sudden those things, by the end of the class are almost second nature, and I can just do them. And something that I noticed about taking this second class is the whole first time I took the class, all 3 days, 100% of my brain power was devoted to conducting the tasks that I was having to do in the moment. Okay, I couldn't worry about anybody else, because it took all of my brain power to think about what I had to do at any given time. Now that became more and more and more throughout the 3 days, and I was able to think about more and more stuff, but it was all related to exactly what I was doing. Going through this a second time, what I noticed is I was able to kind of expand my situational awareness to be able to be aware of what was going on around me as well, like on kind of a larger scale. So instead of having to be laser focused on only what I was doing, I was able to keep track of what teammates were doing, and even to a point where, like, multi-teams, I could kind of keep track of what my team was doing on an individual basis, and then also be aware of what another team was doing. So I noticed, being able to take this class for a second time, that I was able to greatly expand kind of my situational awareness and what I was able to take in all at once. And it was cool because Chuck allowed us, there was me and another guy there that had taken the class with me before. He allowed us to be team leaders, and for me personally, that would have been completely impossible the first time I took the class. Like, I need all my brain to think about just me. I can't think about other people, right? But in this class, I was able to do that and kind of pay attention to what was going on, and kind of drive the team, direct the team, and all that. Something that I wouldn't have been able to do the first class, but as an alumnus of that first class, taking it again, not only was I able to do it, but I was given the opportunity to do it, and that was really cool. A big personal difference between the first class and the second class that I took. Something that I noticed taking it in January and then retaking the class, Chuck had cleaned up a few little things during the class. One thing was with hallways. So the first time we took the class, for me personally, like, we learned several different ways to do kind of the same thing. The problem is, when you learn multiple ways of doing the same thing, you never know in a team environment which one everyone else is going to do. And so it made, some things that should be fairly simple, like taking intersections, it made it harder than it needed to be, because we weren't at a level where we could predict what everybody was going to do when we had multiple ways of accomplishing that same thing. So something that Chuck did in between that class and this class is he kind of simplified it and said, hey, this is how we're going to do it, right? So he kind of selected the best ways to do it, and then taught us that one thing. So whenever we approached, like a cross intersection or T intersection, there wasn't a question on what we were going to do, because we only learned the one way to do it. So as a team, that made things simpler and easier. Something I also noticed is that Chuck included kind of a review of previous days. Okay, so in the first class that I took in January, it was like where you started on day 2 was right where you left off on day 1, and the same thing with day 3. And so what it led to was, by day 3, there were kind of some careless mistakes. People were kind of messing some things up that they probably shouldn't have in that first class. And so what Chuck did during this class is he added just a little bit of review. Didn't take a whole lot of time, but just enough. Hey, before we get going balls to the wall again, we're gonna do just a few quick runs. kind of recapping, kind of getting us back going again, remind us of what we were doing. And I noticed that led throughout the day to fewer of those kind of careless mistakes that are being made. So it was really cool, just adding just a little bit, kind of to get us going and back in the groove of a little bit of review from previous days prior to just hitting the ground running for a brand new training day. So that was a really good improvement, I thought, to the second class. So takeaways, some takeaways on these classes. So as a firearms tactics instructor for my department, one of my duties is part of the training cadre for our counteractive shooter team. And I also help put on the annual school that they do for the team. And so something that we incorporated is, we've been doing live fire shoot house, basic live fire shoot house drills. And we were able to implement a lot of the lessons learned when it comes to how to hold live fire training effectively. So some things that we did most recently. So we kind of focused the shoot house drills with very strict criteria. So we have a whole day during the school that's just devoted to doing a bunch of interior tactics, and it's all with sims, and you get a ton of reps, and it's great. And so what we did for the live fire day of the school is it's okay to just start with basics, right? Enter a room as a 4-man team, hit your points of domination, engage the proper targets in the proper sequence, and have good hit accountability. Like, it's okay to make it simple. And so we did. So we did it simply, but with very strict grading criteria. Okay, so we implemented the 1-to-1 student-instructor ratio to where every student had somebody on a catwalk that we had to make. We don't have a catwalk, so we made it out of ladders and boards to give ourselves a catwalk. 1-to-1 student-instructor ratio so that every step, every shot, every target engagement by each student was evaluated. And when we evaluated them, we had the gig sheets, right? So what is it that we expect of them? Whether it's tactics, marksmanship, weapons handling related, safety related, we had a gig sheet with all of the things and all of their names. And every time there was an issue, it got marked on the gig sheet. So very strict grading criteria that was recorded and was used for student evaluation at the end of class. We also implemented the air horn, so whenever there was a potential safety violation coming off a wall, or not putting a safety coming off too soon or something before they're shooting, whatever. So every instructor had a air horn, and we implemented those air horns, and they were extremely effective. It does not take very long to make somebody afraid of an air horn. And we saw that happen real fast. We even had guys that were going through the school, full-time SWAT team members, that they were pushed to their limits just in this simple drill, and they didn't want the air horn more than anybody else did. And just having that, knowing that was an option, and having it happen to them one time is all it took, and that was extremely effective for making sure that everybody was essentially conducting perfect runs in the shoot house. Also, the concept of if somebody committed a safety violation, instead of just kicking him out of the class, get out of here, we just, if you can't safely do live fire, that doesn't mean you can't be trained. We'll just swap you out for a sim bolt. Okay, and everybody else on your team still shooting live fire, like you're still going to get all of the training value shooting that sim rifle as you would have been doing live fire, even taking that live fire out of it for you specifically. So, and that we did have a shoot house qualification that if you didn't pass it with the live fire, then you just went sims from the start. That happened to a few people, and there was no training lost going to a sim rifle instead of the live fire. So that worked super well. And then something else was placing targets to assess skills. So instead of it trying to make everything a scenario, well, as an active shooter response, typically you're 98% of the time it's one shooter, and then if there's more than one shooter, it's only two, right? Well, it doesn't have to be a scenario. We can place targets, even if it's too many targets. If there's 4 or 5 targets in a room, we're placing them specifically to assess a student's point of domination and primary and secondary scan. So not using targets just as scenario based, but using targets specifically placing them for assessment of the student's understanding of the tactics. And that's, something we took away from Chuck's class, yeah, sure, there's 5 targets in this room. That's never going to happen. That's okay. We're not here to do a scenario every time. We're just assessing, are they shooting them in the proper order, because is their primary and secondary scan correct for whether they're in a 1, 2, 3, or 4 position. So those were really good takeaways that we got from Chuck's class that we implemented at our department and have already seen very good results with. So last thing to talk about is who should go to the Presscheck Shoot House Operations and Safety class. If you're a cop, you should go to the class. Period. All right. You don't have to be on a tactical team. If you're a cop, you should go to the class. Because if you are a cop, your shooting should already be at a subconscious level. Your shooting and weapons handling should already be at a subconscious level. And if it's not, then fix that. Okay. And then once it is, you need to take this class. Because what it does force you to do, even if you're not on a tactical team, it forces you to think while you're shooting. Okay, same reason that I push cops to get into competition shooting, because it forces you to subconsciously do all the shooting, but think with your brain while all the shooting happens second nature. Okay, because when it comes to law enforcement engagements, right, like there's a lot of stuff to think about. Okay, we have to have our brain clear for situation awareness and good decision making. The shooting's got to run in the background, and this class is going to force you to do that and allow you a ton of practice time to be able to do that. And then if you are in a position where you might evaluate any sort of tactics, this class shows you excellent ways of evaluating tactics in fellow officers or recruits, cadets, whatever. So if you're a cop, you should take this class because your shooting should already be second nature. And if it's not, fix that and then take the class. If you're just non-law enforcement, don't carry a gun for a living, but you're listening to this video, you should probably also take this class. If you've taken enough classes or you've shot enough, you've done enough competition or just practiced enough that your shooting and weapons handling is already subconscious, then don't just go take another random rifle class. All right. Like, I've been there before. Like, I'm going to take every rifle class offered by every instructor in the country. And, maybe I learn one new thing. Okay. You don't need to do that. So it's time to take it to another level. Once your competency is subconscious with the shooting, you should take this class because again, it's going to give you that chance to think while you shoot, all right? Which is good for competition, and this just does the same thing in kind of a different way. So it's gonna teach you to do that. It's gonna force you to do that. So you should absolutely do it, even if it's not something that you're going to apply in daily life. That's okay. It's going to be an excellent opportunity to train your brain to be able to shoot and do other things at the same time. And if you're just looking for an awesome LARPing experience, this is going to be the ticket. It's going to be way more involved than any other class you're going to go to. I don't know, maybe Darcy. But other than that, when it comes to shooting paper, this is going to be the best LARPing experience that you're going to find. So you should definitely take this class. So if you're not sure, take the class. And if your skills aren't there quite yet, that's okay. This class should be the goal. So work on those skills with the goal being, hey, once I get this marksmanship and weapons handling to a subconscious level, I can take the Chuck class. So even if you got to sign up for it in 9 months, you got 9 months to get there. And this is an excellent goal for that. So these shoot house classes aren't as full as they should be. They should be completely full because this should absolutely be a goal for anybody that is ready to go beyond square range shooting. This is something you should definitely work towards.